Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. When I was a young, inquisitive child, I climbed to the top of the wall. I looked out at the expansive world beyond with wonder and excitement. I saw my sisters playing and my mom and dad together. My trailer was a castle, and my grandmother's house was made of gingerbread and all the other delectable treats you could imagine. My mother came to the wall and took me down gently. She placed me in a warm bath, and she told me she loved me. I swished and swooshed, and I soaked up all of the warmth that I could. Little did I know she was preparing me for what life had to throw at me. She dried me off and set me down, and I ran straight to the wall again. When I got to the top, I noticed my father was no longer standing beside my mother. A hairline crack began to form. I sat on top of the wall and watched the story unfold. My castle was gone, and now I called the rabbit hutch my home. There were foxes in the hutch now and then, and the fear that they caused created further fractures in my shell. I grew with these fractures, and I learned to wrap myself tightly to protect myself from further damage. My wrapping was coarse and not very pretty, but it was all that I could find. I crept cautiously back up the wall and peered out. People in masks stood at the bottom, telling me it was safe to come down. I edged closer to the rim of the wall, and I smiled down at them. Before I had the chance to descend, I felt the hard crack of a rod against my back, and I was flung to the rocky ground. My pieces lay shattered all around me, but to my surprise, the bath my mother had given me had hardened my insides, just enough that I stood firm. I gathered my pieces into the wrapping once used to protect myself, and I ran back to the wall. By the time I reached it, I was tired and had no idea how to go forward. The Air Force was waiting for me at the wall. They firmly told me that I needed to put my pieces back together, and they showed me how to do it. They gave me bindings to recreate my form, and they told me that I would need to work to make this new shell become whole. I stood at the bottom of the wall, and I went through the motions. I listened to what they said, and I followed orders. Over time, I became a new version of myself. I walked along the bottom of the wall, and I met so many people with so many experiences that they shared with me. I kept my bindings on the whole time, unsure of what I would see when I removed them. I painted them and added accoutrements to make them my own, and I was proud of my work. People looked at me and complimented me on how beautiful I had become. I began to get a little too self-secure. One day I looked down and noticed a tiny piece of shell lying in the grass behind me. I wept, knowing that this part of me would never be the same. I looked on, wondering if I should pick it up or if I should just leave it where it lay. No one could tell me, and so it was left. I could feel the empty spot, but it scarred over quickly, and from time to time I would reach up and slide my fingers over the scar beneath my bindings. I saw a vast sea within my reach, and I jumped in. I swam to the nearest island, and I continued to experience all that these places had to offer. In the distance, I saw what appeared to be a safe haven. The sea holds many dangers, and I saw my escape. The Air Force had made me strong, and the sea had made me wiser. On this lush green land, I found a fortress. Within the fortress, there were many knights, and it was one of those knights that I decided to pledge my allegiance. He built me a staircase enclosed in a protective metal cage, and within that cage, I noticed that a smaller egg had found her way in and was by my side, watching below as I watched. I took this egg and I placed her in my lap. I gave her the same bath that my mother had given me, and I protected her with the ferocity of a lioness. She was the most beautiful thing I had ever created. For 2 years, we sat together, watching and learning. One morning, I felt an emptiness. I looked below and saw a small egg, so tiny you could barely perceive it, lying in the grass below. I climbed down and retrieved it as I held on dearly to my firstborn. She looked me in the eyes and hugged me, telling me, "It will be okay, Mama." I cried more tears than could be cried. Then I wiped them away, and we opened the bandages that I had been wearing for so long they were becoming part of me. We found the crack that had become to form from this loss, and we opened it just enough to place the tiny egg within. Then I hefted her up, and we crawled back to the top of the wall. When we reached the top, the crack had scarred over, and there was another small egg waiting for us. I sat in contentment on top of the wall with my 2 eggs. I saw the dangers below, and I pointed them out to my eggs. But I also showed them the beauty that lay before them. I have made it my life's purpose to guard these eggs and to make them as strong as they can be for the day that I am no longer on that wall with them. But the wall will still be there, and they will find their way. There are still many days that I feel like Humpty Dumpty. There are days that I feel like I can't bear to get up and go through all the motions that are required of me in life. I've had days when I just don't see the point of any of it. But every time I have one of those days, I remember my children. That's why I do it. That's why I will continue to get up every single day. The Bonnies in the world make it easier. My partner, who has been with me through this for 13 years, has shown me unwavering love and support. I've said before that I am a hard woman to love, and he has done just that. Loved me through all of my moods and all of my dives into depression. When I first started dating him after my divorce, I didn't want to be that mom. The mom that has a constant flow of men coming into her home, each of which thinks they will be staying, and each of which imparts some memory onto my children. We dated for 6 months before the children were finally told who he was to me. They met him 5 months into our relationship, and it was only allowed because I was in college and desperately needed help with my statistics class. Normally, he would only come to my house when they were with their father, which was typically every other week. Statistics gave me the need to have him there when they were there, or I would have failed the class. He was introduced as my friend, and the kids would come and go from the room as he helped me figure out the concepts of statistics. Mackenzie would sit in his lap at the computer while he walked me through the interpretation of the ideas. One day, about a month after they had met him, I gave him a kiss on the cheek in the kitchen. I'm not much for public affection. Mackenzie happened to be walking in, and she saw it happen. Her eyes grew to the size of golf balls, and she quickly turned around to go back into her room, stating, "It's okay, it's okay." The jig was up after that. I sat down with her and explained that we were dating. I told her that if at any time she decided she didn't want him to be there, she just had to tell me and he would be gone. Secretly, I hoped that would not happen. Then it was time to break the news to Michael. Michael splashed around in the bathtub and smiled brightly at me while I sat down on the floor of the one-person bathroom in front of the toilet. He took the blue cup with designs of fish adorning the outside of it and poured water over his head, laughing. I scooted closer and told him I needed to talk to him about something. He plopped onto his stomach and pushed himself forward and backwards, creating waves in the tub. I told him that Yuri and I had began dating, and he stopped moving. He looked up at me in shock, and he exclaimed, "You're dating?" He was only 3 years old. It was one of the funniest things he's ever said to me. That and when he said, Years ago, when I was 4, at the time he was only 5. He wasn't too upset for long, and the rest is history. 13 years of history. He has become one of my best friends, and he loves my children just as fiercely as I do. Yuri and I may not have the traditional husband-wife setup, but we have what we need. I've been married 3 times. None of them stuck. Probably because none of them were for the right reasons, or were with the people that I was truly compatible with. And by saying that, I completely admit that who I am has been changing drastically with every new experience I encounter. I do not feel that a piece of paper is what will make or break a relationship, and therefore I see no need to have it. Some frown upon this, and I understand. That's not how you understand the paper to be. To you, the paper has more meaning, and that is 100% okay. However, there can be more meanings given to one thing, and most of the time, there are. I don't know where I will be 3, 5, 10, or 20 years from now. I do know that right now I have everything I need in life, and Yuri is a part of that. We have our ups and downs. Doesn't everyone? Raising children together, especially when they aren't biologically yours, can be difficult. There are rules that have to be set so that everyone understands their role, or at least I feel like there should be. Yuri was always there for my children when he needed to be, or when I needed him to be there as well. I did make it clear that any physical punishment would only be handled by me, and to this day, I think Mackenzie received 1 spanking. Michael, on the other hand, was too much like me. So it took a few more reminders for him. For the most part, I talked the kids through why they were being punished, and the majority of the time, the punishment would be them listening to me explain what they did that was out of line. I could see the cloud pass over their eyes when we went into their room and sat on the bed to talk. Everyone says they have the best children, but I know I have the best children a mother could ever be given. They are both thoughtful and empathetic, smart and kind. They have a sense of humor that can make a member of the King's Guard crack a smile on their worst day. They took a selfish, impulsive girl and made her into someone who rescues animals from the pound and shows up to every sports event, award ceremony, recital, fun run, sheep riding contest, school function, and meaningful life event she can make it to. I would change nothing. I need nothing more than what I have, and I have so much more than what I need. I have been blessed beyond imagination, and I ask myself why every day. My family is always there for me, and my friends, no matter how far away they are, I can always count on. I have coworkers that are full of knowledge and experience, and they are always willing to share it. They point out just how good we have it, and it makes life easier. One such smart man told me a story about being at work one day and seeing a man straddling an airplane just humping it. That means working hard. He looked up as he walked past and he said, "Why are you working so hard?" The man looked down at him and replied, "Well, I'm here, aren't I?" In a world where a lot of people are so entitled and that people think they're always above performing certain tasks, I appreciate the perspective of this worker. You may as well do something, and why not make that something great if you have to be there anyway? I don't find myself to be traditional in the way I think about a lot of things, and I was raised with a glass half empty perspective. But the more I interact with these types of people, the more I see merit in their thought process. You can trudge through life being envious of what everyone else has around you, or you can appreciate all of the things that you have been graced with. You can blame everyone for every bad thing that you've gone through, or you can take responsibility for the part you played, and you can use your past to make better choices and to teach others so they don't make the same ones that led you to some not so great conclusions. It's all in the way you look at it and the way that you choose to respond. Every day won't be the best day you've had in your life, but every day will be a day that you are given to make it your best day. If your best for that day is getting out of bed and petting your dog while you drink a cup of tea, then I'd say that's a pretty good day. For a while, I had to force myself to listen to endless audio tapes on how to be happy at work, Zen in the art of happiness, and Your Brain's Not Broken, to name a few of the 30 plus books and audiobooks I've devoured. And you know what the resounding concept is? Be happy with what you have and be kind. Maybe that's easier said than done for some. Maybe I'm just very blessed, but I don't find it very difficult to comply with those two mantras. Kindness is like a disease, but a disease you want. As you touch others with your kindness, they then spread that kindness further along. The young teenager Leonard, whom we sponsor from Africa, lives in a home with dirt floors. Every day he has to walk with a bucket to get water from one pump in the center of town for all of his family needs. His father has passed away. He doesn't have a brand new flashy car or the newest cell phone or tech strewn about his room. He doesn't have his own room. After you take into account all of those things, you look at his photo, and he has the most beautiful smile that touches your soul when you see it. If he's smiling, I think I can smile. I didn't tell this story to garner sympathy or to point out anyone's faults or perceived failures. I tell it because it's my story to tell, and it's completely cathartic to tell it. I tell it because my children will know who their mother is, the things that made me who I am. I tell it because sometimes you don't know that something exists until someone else tells you, and that knowledge is powerful. Life is not black and white. Decisions are not made in a vacuum, and there are always two sides to a story. All the king's horses and all the king's men may not have been able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, but my family, my children, the Air Force, and all of the good people in my life made me the best version of myself that I have ever been. They gave me structure, support, endless love, knowledge, perseverance, resilience, perspective, and the ability to know that this growth doesn't stop unless you choose to stop it. To all of the Bonnies out there, thank you. I am forever grateful to you. Claire Pooley said it wonderfully. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. About the author. Jeanette Huffman is an author and historian with a passion for genealogy, personal narratives, and historical preservation. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Management and has dedicated 28 years to the Department of Defense, including a decade of service as an enlisted member of the United States Air Force. Her writing is deeply rooted in history and personal experience. She is the author of memoirs, genealogical research, and historical fiction, including both standalone works and contributions to anthologies. Huffman's stories are known for their emotional resonance, authenticity, and a deep reverence for legacy. She currently resides in California, where she continues to write and explore new narrative frontiers in fiction and nonfiction alike. Books by Jeanette Huffman: The Story of Us, The Starbuck, Waldschmidt, and Huffman Family of Bangor, Michigan, Finding Bonnie, Abigail, which was featured in Monsters Ball anthology, The Soul Keepers, and Who We Were.